Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. This is Will Eisner from Awareness Incorporated, and welcome to our webinar. We're very excited to have with us today Joe Pulizzi, the author of Get Content, Get Customers, which is a very exciting book about content marketing. And Joe's going to talk to you about content marketing today. We thank everyone for joining the webinar. We got pretty exciting content to get through with you today. And we're really excited to have Joe with us. Joe comes as part of a series of presentations that we're going to be hosting by McGraw-Hill authors about various social marketing topics. So we're excited to have Joe, and we're excited to have these series of authors, which we'll be presenting in the next couple months. We'll usually be offering free chapter downloads with a lot of really valuable content for people who are doing social marketing activities. If you don't know Joe, if you haven't read Joe's book, Get Content, Get Customers, we definitely recommend that you read it. We're going to tell you about it and tell you how you can get it. And I'm going to take you guys through a few minutes of introductions before I hand off to Joe. So, Joe, can you hear me right now? I just want to make sure your audio is all right. Actually, I think Joe's probably still muted. Let me unmute Joe. All right. Joe, are you...
I am here and ready to go.
Right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you. Hi, Joe.
Fantastic. I will.
All right. So let me introduce everybody. Your presenter today will be Joe Pulizzi. Joe is an expert in content marketing. He is prominent. He's often on Twitter. You can find him at Junta Joe. That's his Twitter handle. And he's the CEO of Junta 42 and also the founder of the Content Marketing Institute. So I'm going to let Joe tell you about the Content Marketing Institute when he gets started, and he can tell you the kinds of things that they're doing over there. Additionally, he's, of course, the author of Get Content, Get Customers, which is the book that some of you may have read some free chapters of, and which we'll be talking about a little bit today. I am Will Eisner. I'll be one of your hosts here from Awareness today. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Awareness, and I'll be online today along with my colleague, Sal Gilberto. Hey, Sal. Hey, everyone. And while Joe's doing his presentation, we're going to be online collecting your questions, and we're going to be helping with the Q&A session towards the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, we're going to tell you in a minute how you can get to them. Now, if you have any questions about awareness, there's my email address, will.eisner@awarenessnetworks.com. I'm on Twitter at Will Boston, and, of course, I follow the Awareness Inc. handle pretty carefully. Sal Gilberto is, as I mentioned, my colleague. That's his email address and his Twitter handle. Just a few house rules sort of before we get started. If you want to ask us a question, there's some mechanisms within WebEx like the chat and the Q&A, but we recommend that you post the question on Twitter and just use the Awareness Inc. hashtag. We'll be monitoring that hashtag, and that's where we're going to look first for questions. If you have any questions about the content that Joe's going to be presenting. If you have any technical issues, we have Connie on the line. Connie is a WebEx representative. If you send a chat message, she'll be able to respond to you. She's under the handle WebEx Producer, or you can use the WebEx support that you can find in the WebEx client. We are not WebEx experts here. That's why we have Connie with us. So if you have technical problems, we probably won't be able to help you, but you can contact her and she'll be able to help you. The book, as we mentioned, that Joe wrote is called Get Content, Get Customers, and it's a really interesting and useful book for anyone who's doing content marketing. So anyone who's interested in taking content and using it to drive interest and drive revenue, this is a book that has a lot of very practical and usable information that you can that basically you can get started with right away. You can buy the book right now on Amazon.com, and if your job involves content marketing, we definitely recommend that you do that. We will also be giving away 5 copies of the book today, and we will be picking the people who get the book based on the tweets that we see. So if you tweet a question at Junta Joe with the #Awareness Inc. hashtag, afterwards, Joe will be picking the top 5 questions, and then we will get 5 copies of the books over to you. We'll direct message you on Twitter. And maybe if we're lucky, we can get Joe to sign it. But we'll see about
it. I'd be happy to.
That's great. So we'll be determining that afterwards. Now, I just want to spend a couple of minutes, really just a minute or two, telling you about awareness before we hand off to Joe. I'm going to keep this short because I know you guys want to get to the content marketing stuff, but some people come to our webinars wonder, okay, so, awareness, you do these nice content presentations, but what do you do? Who are you? And we're the company that makes the Awareness Social Marketing Hub, which is a tool that enterprises use to centralize their social marketing efforts. We work with a lot of mid and large-sized corporations who are using our tool, and we're also partnered with some of the biggest digital agencies in the world to deliver our software. That's what we do. We deal here at Awareness with people who are facing a lot of kind of common challenges in social marketing. First of all, people tell us that they feel overwhelmed with the landscape and overwhelmed with how they can be effective with all the different kind of options they have. We hear that people are having trouble measuring the ROI and the effectiveness of their social marketing activities to justify the budget and the time they're putting into it. People tell us that they feel a kind of lack of control. So whether it's that they have spreadsheets with passwords being sent around, or comments that they can't respond to, or conversations about their products or companies that they just have no control over. This is kind of a common thread that we're hearing. And basically, if you feel overwhelmed and you're having trouble measuring what you're doing and you don't feel like you have a lot of control, it's very hard to be strategic. So people tell us they don't feel that strategic, they feel reactive. And they feel like they're just reacting to what's going on when they're doing their social marketing. And basically, in a nutshell, that's what the Social Marketing Hub is for. It is a tool that lets marketers publish, manage, measure, and engage to the most important social marketing channels today. I'm not going to talk much more about it because I know we want to get to Joe's content, but I'd be very happy to arrange for, if any of you have any more questions, you can tweet at Awareness Inc. or email me directly. You can see that, you see here the kind of channels that we're focused on, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Flickr, etc. What the Hub does is it gives you control over your social media across an organization, especially if you have a team. Centralizes the management of what you're doing. It lets you evolve from being reactive to strategic, and it helps you measure your success with social marketing. So the last thing I'll say is that if you're interested in seeing more, of course you can email me, like I said before. We also have bi-weekly demos that are open, and you can join them. We have the next one next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be hosting it, so if you would like to hear my voice again, this is an opportunity for you to register for that. You can go to tinyurl/hubdemo or just go to our website at awarenessnetworks.com. Now, with that, I'm going to hand off to Joe. Joe has about a good number of slides to get through. Joe, I'm going to make you the presenter now, so you should have control. And with that, I'll hand off to you, Joe. Thank you.
Great, Will. Thanks so much. It's a pleasure being on the call today. I want to thank everybody for taking your time and joining us. We are going to talk about content marketing, publishing as the new marketing. And literally, we have about 3 hours of material that we're going to put into 40 or so minutes because I want to make sure, Will, that we have at least 10 minutes of time for Q&A, and I know you want to give away the books, which is fantastic. So I'm going to go through a little bit about me here in a second, and then we're going to get right to the content because a lot to cover, and I'm really looking forward to your questions. So as Will was saying, I'm adjunct to Joe, co-author of Get Content, Get Customers with my good friend Nick Barrett. Just real briefly about what the Content Marketing Institute does. We're doing a lot of things all around content marketing, but some of our sub-brands include Jump to 42. Jump to 42 is like the eHarmony for content marketing. So if you're looking for a content producer, content agency, Jump to 42 will hook you up. It's a free service for clients, marketers. We just launched a magazine called Chief Content Officer Magazine. It's in print and digital. If you're interested in getting that magazine, it's all about content strategy for executive marketers. You can get that. Just type into Google Chief Content Officer Magazine and it will pop right up, and you can subscribe to our pro membership service. It's free, by the way. And last but not least, the Content Marketing World of 2011, the premier international content marketing event. It's September 6th, 7th, and 8th, 2011 in Cleveland, Ohio. And I want to let you know that we've got super early bird rate, $795 until the end of January. So if you're interested, we've got David Meerman Scott, David Pogue, Brian Clark, and everybody there, and brands like Lego and DuPont are going to be talking about how they are creating their own content marketing strategy and telling stories to grow their business. And that is it for me, Will, and I'm going to move on here. What are we going to cover today? Content marketing, what it is, why you need it, who's doing it, and we're going to end with a new section I just put together. I hope you like it. It's called 10 Reasons Why You Might Be Failing in Content Marketing and How to Fix Them. I just started with the 10 reasons why you might be failing, but I didn't think that was fair because just, focusing on the negative is not good. So we're going to focus on the negative and then tell you how you can fix it and what you need to do in your own company. Okay, here's the question, right? Are you a publisher? Just think about that for 1 second. Are you a publisher? What do you think of when you think of the word publisher? You might think of being a book publisher, per se, like a McGraw-Hill is. And then you've got all different types of book publishers there that might come to mind: Random House, Scholastic, McGraw-Hill, Wiley, whatever the case may be. You may think of magazine publisher. All kinds of different magazines. You've got trade, special interest magazines. You've got regional magazines. You've got consumer magazines like Self. You've got business magazines like Fast Company. And then you may be thinking, well, what about online publishing, web publishing today? And who are those people? You got like Mashable for social media. You've got digital extensions of magazines like AdvertisingAge.com, Huffington Post, which started as a blog and now it's a full online publishing powerhouse, Yahoo, Weather Channel, iVillage, all publishers themselves, but online publishers. So we got lots of different publishers. I can go on and on. You're going to talk about movie producers, anybody that's producing content for a revenue-generating purpose. I'm going to get into the difference in a second. But what is publishing? Publishing is a process of production and distribution, dissemination of information. So the activity of making lots of content available for the public, that is just your basic definition of publishing. Well, if you were going to be a publisher, if you say, I want to be a publisher, there used to be a lot of barriers to entry. We talk about this in the book, where a lot of people that wanted to engage in your content, let's say, they wouldn't be accepting of you as a company, as a brand, as a non-publisher. They wouldn't accept your content. Today they do. They accept that content from whether you're the Wall Street Journal or, whether you're Kodak. Talent, accessibility of talent. It used to be hard to find really good journalists. Today, there are lots of journalists, lots of content agencies willing to help you become a publisher. Technology is one of the biggest things. It used to be a barrier to entry. You couldn't get the databases. You couldn't get the names. You couldn't create the publishing processes unless you spent a lot of money. Today, you can be up and running with a blog in 5 minutes, right? And in some cases, it's free. Databases. Publishers had great databases where they could pull information, and that's the reason why we advertised, right? To send information to a targeted list of people, and we wanted to create our advertising around that content. Well, today we have really good databases, and in some cases, brands have better databases than publishers do. So those barriers to entry are gone. So really, what are we doing as publishers? Well, we want to publish really good information and make ourselves interesting through all these different ways, right? We want to use things like social media, things that awareness can help you manage and look at when you're looking at your social media strategy is, how do you then take those distribution points, make yourself interesting with content, and actually, take on thinking and acting like a publisher. Now, for whatever you think about that statement, just hold back for a second because we're going to get in depth into thinking and acting like a publisher. So what's the difference, right? What's the real difference between a marketer today and a publisher? And think about that, right? It's like the difference between Diet Coke and a Coke Zero. So what is the real difference? And I love this movie, City Slickers. When Curly gets up and says, what's the meaning of life? It's one thing. And the difference between marketers and publishers is the same thing. It's just one thing. And it's money. It all comes down to how we get the money from our content. That's it. This is a little cutout from a Marketing Sherpa article where they just interviewed me, and I thought this is probably the most succinct way to put it. So there's only one difference, is that a media company leverages, creates content in order to sell paid content or sponsorships. That's why a media company creates content, right? They want to sell that content or they want to sell that content in the form of sponsorships. A non-media company, you as a brand, you create the same type of content. You do the same types of things with the same types of processes, but you probably don't get paid on the content or the sponsorships. You get paid through selling more products and services, not directly but indirectly. So what really, in every other way, we are exactly the same. And this is from a Marketing Pros Jump to 42 study that we just did, where we talked to 985, so 985 corporate marketers, small, medium-sized, and big. And we said, what are you doing as it relates to publishing, as it relates to this thing that we're calling content marketing? And look at it. 79% are disseminating their content through social media. They're posting articles. 78%. They're doing their own events, e-newsletters, case studies, blogs, white papers, webinars. If you look at this, You'll say, man, that's a publisher. That is a publishing group. But really what these are brands, like you and me and everybody else. But the difference is how they're getting the money. Why are we creating content? We're creating content in order to attract and retain customers. So that's the difference. So there's really no difference between you and a publisher today. So you've got to start thinking a little bit like that. And there's a huge opportunity if you do this. And what I'm asking you to think of as you go through the rest of this presentation with me is to think about the opportunities by thinking and acting this way, and maybe get a little bit off the tools and more onto the strategy about how you need to do that and how you need to create the processes in your company. So what's content marketing? Content marketing is marketers as publishers. It's owning the media channels versus renting the media channels. So you think about it from a magazine standpoint. It's doing your own custom magazine and sending it out to your own customers versus buying an ad in somebody else's magazine. So it's assets versus non-assets. And the formal definition, which is the only formal definition slide you'll get here, is attracting and retaining customers by creating, curating valuable and compelling content on a consistent basis. And to maintain or change a behavior, which is very important, right? But the difference is the consistency, because most brands, they look at it from a campaign mentality. It's very short-term bursts of content. Content marketing is an ongoing promise, and we're going to get to that in a second. All right. So for those of you who know me, I love Lego. I'm a brand advocate for Lego. I have so many Legos in this house, I step on them on a daily basis, and I have Legos around my desk right now, and I have a little Lego guy sitting next to me, similar to the one that you're looking at on the screen. One of the reasons why I got into content marketing was because of Lego and following their progression as a publisher. Most people don't think of Lego as a publisher. They think of them as, a toy company brand. And I want to tell you about this story, and it starts with my kids receiving this magazine. This is Lego Club magazine. We've been getting it forever, and more on that in a second. But this came at the end of December this year, and in the end of December we saw this issue, and it was all about, pronounced Ninjago. Ninjago. I have to say it right, or my kids, I have two boys, 7 and 9, and they always tell me I'm saying it wrong. So Ninjago. And it came right before Christmas time, and it was, fantastic. And I'm just looking at the thing. Hopefully everybody's able to see the slides right. It looks like some people are not seeing those slides transfer right.
Yeah, some people aren't seeing the slides advanced, but
are you seeing them on your end, Will?
I am seeing them. We're seeing them here.
Okay, so some people are having trouble. Hopefully you can play along with us, and hopefully more of you than not are actually seeing this go. So. Yeah,
so sorry about that, everybody. We'll post this, we'll post a recording of this afterwards with the content, so you can see it if you're having any trouble now. But Joe, just please continue.
You got it. I feel bad because these are really cool slides.
They're really wonderful.
So, anyways, let me tell you the story about Ninjago. So, the magazine came. There was a custom magazine sent direct pieces of content, and what's great about Lego magazine is they tell these wonderful stories. They talk about the history of Sensei Wu and all these guys. And I know most, Carl and all the different Ninjago characters. And as soon as my kids got it, the first thing they did was they went online. And they went online to the Ninjago.com site. And they found FAQs, and they found the history of Ninjago, and they found how to play it, and they found interviews that you see at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. They saw interviews with the makers, and it was just fantastic content that they were creating. Then they went on to the Spinjitzu. Spinjitzu is the art of Ninjago. I know I'm maybe going over your head here, but work with me for a little bit. So Spinjitzu training, where they can figure out how to be a good Spinjitzu master, which, by the way, I can't beat my kids for some reason at this little game. And you basically spin a Lego, and your little guy spins around, and you try to knock the weapon out of the Lego's hand. So anyways, and these guys are awesome because they're talking about how to do it in master classes and really, really good information. And then they went on and they had games. This game is called the 4 Pass, and they spent the time, my son Joshua and my son Adam, they're on the computer, and they're doing all these games and playing, and some really amazing. And then, oh my gosh, lo and behold, there's a Cartoon Network series all about Lego Ninjago, and it's going to be on premiering, this Friday, the 14th. So we're going to be watching that as well. So some really amazing things regarding Lego publishing material. And oh, by the way, we talked about consistent. I actually got the original Brick Kicks magazine back in 1987, which dates me a little bit. But I mean, so this is consistent. They've been publishing this for a long, long time. And what has it got them? What have they been able to do? Look at this. If you look at this, this is a publishing company. They've got custom magazine versions, multiple versions, Club and Brickmaster. They have an email newsletter. They have the website content we were just talking about. They have branded music. They have club meetings at stores. They have an on-demand TV channel. They have videos. Unbelievable. They have a social network. I mean, this is publishing, except instead of monetizing it off of the content itself, they sell more products and services. And by the way, we're going to get into a lot of examples. You don't have to be a big consumer company like Lego. You can be a small B2B company and do this as well. I'm going to show you how in a bit. And what has it got them? 2009 revenues were up 18% in a year where most toy companies had a very, very rough time. But they're doing it right because they're telling stories. This is a brand telling stories, lots of stories. Who else are telling stories? Procter & Gamble created a site years ago called HomemadeSimple.com. Solutions for the home, organized kitchen. They have over 6 million people opted in to receive that. That's like saying, hey, please, I want to get your marketing, Procter & Gamble. And that's what they do. It's the best R&D activity they have. 6 million people. Crown Peak did a content management system pocket guide. Had over 100,000 downloads of this thing and millions in business. Think Money magazine. From TD Ameritrade, 90% of the readers who get this magazine directly acted on the information in that. I mean, this is some amazing stuff that they're doing, and they're doing it by telling stories and educating their customers, educating prospects, and being the trusted expert in the industry. Okay, so take a deep breath. This is a lot of stuff, and I'm going fast because we've got a lot of stuff to cover. So we can all be media companies today. It's wonderful, right? I mean, even Seth Godin, the marketing expert guru himself, said content marketing is the only marketing left. And he's the guy that wrote Permission Marketing 10 years ago, and he's coming out and saying, you know, we've got to tell stories. That's how we're successful in our marketing. And we did in the survey, we found out that basically, you know, almost 90% of the companies that we talked to are all doing content marketing. They're all publishing their own content consistently throughout the process. And how has this happened so fast? I call it, you know, this is kind of the content rush for gold. It's this mixture of search engine optimization, lead generation, and social media. And what we found out as marketers, in order for these three things to work right, we need storytelling. We need interesting content that makes us sound interesting, that is interesting, that helps our customers, that solves their pain points, and tells engaging stories. And what are we seeing companies do? The average company spends 26% of their budget on content marketing, which is amazing. It's like the biggest little industry you never knew about. I mean, if you engage in marketing information and educational information, you get this from Mashable, and you get it online, and Marketing Profs and B2B, and even ourselves. You know, we'll talk about this in SEO, and we'll talk about it in regular marketing, and we hear about social media, but we don't really realize how much of a budget is actually going to content creation and distribution. So look at that. Smaller companies more, bigger companies less, and that's mostly because there's a lot of bigger companies are still spending a lot of money on media spend. If you look at this, this is from eMarketer. Percentage of companies that currently have a social media strategy, and I know with awareness we're talking about social media here, they're talking about content. 73% are using content through their social media channels. It's very similar to the number we came up with was 79. So in order to have a social media campaign that works, social media strategy, you need content first, not second. Content marketing spending over the next 12 months, over 50% are increasing that spending. So you're like, woohoo, right? Fantastic. We're all publishers now. We're all media. Everything is right with the world. It's fantastic. Everything is good, right? And I would say, no, unfortunately, it's not, because there's a lot of really bad content out there, and you know what I'm talking about, right? There's a lot of spammy content. There's a lot of horrible things going on right now because there are no barriers to entry, and we can all publish. And it's a little bit messy out there right now. So you have a lot of people getting into an industry, publishing, that they don't know anything about, and they're just doing stuff, which can be good in some cases, but we're seeing a lot of bad. And what I want you to get from this webinar is how to do things right. And I'm sure a lot of you, just by being on the call, you're probably doing a lot of things that are right already. Let's talk about some of these other things that we can really do. How do we know that they're doing a lot of things wrong? If you look at this confidence gap that we had we had this confidence gap that we have, and we talked about effectiveness ratings of tactics among the different users that we have. Just look at the top line with social media. If 100% of what we're looking at from social media is usage, 69% of those people that use content marketing in their social media programs feel they're doing it ineffectively. Blogs, those people that have blogs, 60% feel that they're ineffective at it. Videos, 55% feel they're ineffective. So it's great that we're doing all this stuff, and look at all the things that we're doing. But most of the marketers that we're talking to don't feel like they're doing it right, and they can't measure it, and they're having trouble. So this comes to the next 20 minutes. I'm going to go through the 10 reasons your content stinks and how you can fix it. And we're going to have a little bit of fun with this, and I'm looking forward to your questions on it. And number one is lack of content marketing goals. I have to start there because we see it so often. People want to do, we should have a Facebook page, or, I want to have a blog, but they don't have goals behind it. So what do most marketers want then when they start a content marketing strategy? They want customer retention, lead gen, thought leadership. They want to open new markets. They want to inspire decision makers. Some people want to solve world hunger. Somebody thought it would be cool. The CEO wants it. There's all kinds of different reasons, right? I need you to choose one. You need to focus on one. Although content marketing in your programs can do a lot of things, you really need to focus on that one main thing so you can measure it, so you can actively measure it. Let me give you a couple examples. Altair Engineering, a design engineering company, they created a magazine called Concept to Reality. It was their biggest single investment from their marketing budget. They do it 2 times per year, and it's a really amazing magazine. Their objective is to reach senior executives. That's their objective. And what they want to do is reach those executives, get on their target, and start to have conversations with them, and it's working for them. Look at somebody maybe more well-known on the consumer side. Look at Corvette Quarterly. You think, what's the goal of Corvette Quarterly online and print magazine? The objective? It's simply one thing. They want to convert Porsche owners. That's their goal. They want to send this to Porsche owners and convert them to start considering Corvettes. That's it. And they do that very, very effectively with that. So if you think about your organizational goals for content marketing, here are the main ones. And this is, again, from the research study that we did with Marketing Cross, Chapter 42. 78% goal is brand awareness. Very, very tough to measure that, though. But we can measure things like customer retention and loyalty, lead generation, customer recruitment, website traffic, which is tough. It's one of those tangible measures. I focus on, obviously, sales, 51% if you can do it. I thought it'd be higher. Lead management, nurturing, I thought that would be much higher. And actually a lot of the ways that we use social media as well. And I think it all comes down to when you're thinking about your content marketing strategy and goals, you've got to make sure first you have the goals. Second, you have the calls to action. In the print world, we call this the one-page mantra. Every page that we had in a print magazine, we had to make sure we had a call to action. If you look at Lego here, down at the bottom of every page, they've got a call to action. Powerliners.lego.com for more information, or check out our mini movie on this website, or click on this QR code, or go here and sign up for this, or go to this web page. So think about, as you're putting together your content, you got to think about what your call to action is as well. Number 2, reason why your content stinks and how to fix it. Your content is about everything. And I want to give you an example of this. Now, Sinclair Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, where I found them, I'm so happy that an HVAC company is doing blogging. I'm active in the HVAC world. We have a blogging service in that space, and looking at, hey, great for Sinclair. They're doing blogging. But you know what? Look at this blog. You know what it is? It's the December 2010 recipe of the month. This doesn't fit, right? What is a plumber or an HVAC guy blogging about breadsticks? So that's the type of thing we're seeing. So you've got to make sure if you create content, you've got to be real focused in what that niche is and what you're covering and what your specialty is. So what I'm asking you to do is get super niche with your content. The more niche, the better. You can always go bigger, but go more niche. I'll give you an example. Pets, right? Somebody say, we're in the pet supplies business, so we're going to blog about pets, and we're going to create an ebook about pets, and we're going to create a white paper series or webcast series on pets. Fantastic. Well, let's get more niche, right? Like something like issues pertaining to pet owners who like to travel with their dogs. Now that's a good super niche. And you know what? There's actually a magazine called Phyto Friendly that targets that exact niche. Because with your content marketing, what you're trying to do is you're trying to position yourself as the trusted expert in your industry. In order to do that, you've got to get super niche, because if you're going to be the expert, you've got to cover that topic like nobody else. Just content for content's sake isn't good enough. You have to have the best content. I'm going to talk about more in a second. So look at your content right now. And you're talking about everything all over the place. If you're in the marketing industry, you're talking about all kinds of marketing, you're probably doing a disservice to your readers. You've got to go as niche as possible. Number 3 reason why your content stinks, the content is about you. And just take that picture in, right? You see it so many times, and that's the problem with so many blogs that are out there. They just talk about themselves all the time. Here's our great products, our services, our features. We're awesome. Now, this is from my Ford magazine from Ford. And I got nothing against Ford. I've driven Ford forever. My dad used to work at Ford, and I think Ford's done an amazing job bringing their brand back. This is from 2007, and still one of the best examples ever of really talking about yourself. All the places you see on this where I've got it highlighted, that's everywhere where they're mentioning Ford or a Ford brand. So let's look at that. It's like, that's a real good piece of content. I love that. I'm going to engage in that because it's all about Ford. No, we need to focus on the pain points of our customers and stop talking about ourselves. In that spread, just that spread alone, there were 17 separate, in that issue that we're talking about for my Ford, there were 17 separate content sections, mini features, sidebars, whatever. Of those 17 areas, Ford is mentioned in the title or first sentence of 14 of them. Now, just think about that. If you're doing that with your content and always mentioning you got a problem. People are going to tune out and they're not going to engage in your content. It's like Ford Focus is a sporty car with serious smarts. Ford is continually improving its vehicles. Your content marketing is not your PR. You're not promoting you all the time. You want to focus on the needs of your customers. It's a simple thing that we forget most times because we let our sales and marketing heads get in the way and we forget to focus on what I would call the reader. So here's what your choice is. You have to be the solutions provider for your industry, for your niche, a trusted expert. You have 2 choices. 1, give your customers compelling, relevant information, and or 2, show them a good time. You don't have another choice. You got to do one or the other or both with your content. And if you're not doing it, don't do it. Kill that content. Take it to the next level because you're competing with everybody. I'm going to get to that in a second. So what do? Find your customers' pain points, right? RSS, Google Alerts. If you don't have a full, if you don't have awareness type tool, if you don't have awareness type tool, you can get one. If you don't have Scout Labs or Radiant 6 or those types of monitoring systems or whatever the case is, and you got to do it yourself, do SurveyMonkey tools, Zoomerang. Ask your customers what their needs are. What are their pain points? Talk to your sales reps about what their challenges are. Monitor social media. You can get all this information. It's all out there. So find out what those pain points are and then integrate that into your content. Number 4 reason why your content stinks and how to improve it. I'm sorry, but good enough is not good enough anymore. You can't just, we have to up the ante with our content. Think about it this way. Look at a company like SAS. So SaaS's content competition in the manufacturing market might be IBM, Oracle, SAP, right? And you might think from a content marketing and a social media perspective that your competition are those 3 companies. But you know what? It's not. You know who else it is? You're competing with media like Industry Magazine, Yahoo News, Harvard Business Publishing, Google, blogs like Lean Blog. You're competing with those in that space. And in order to get the attention of your customers and prospects, your content has to be as good or better than any of those. And that's the big problem we're seeing. It's not. And it's tough to create a process that has the best content. So we've got to start doing things differently because we are competing against everybody, every piece of media, those 3,000 marketing messages that are bombarding our customers. How are we going to cut through that clutter? We've got to do it with great storytelling. eMarketer says great content marketing is unique, useful or fun, well executed, and matches the media channel. Those 4 things. So think about it from this perspective. What does your content stand for? has to be unique with a point of view. And I love talking about this example. Gary Vaynerchuk, Wine Library TV. If you haven't checked him out, he's a little bit off color sometimes. He basically talks about the wine experience. And he'll get on there and he'll take a sip of wine and he'll say, that wine, it tastes like Skittles. Or that wine, tastes like sweaty socks. Or whatever he's talking about. I don't know how he knows this stuff, but that's what but he makes it real for people. And by the way, he's grown his business from 5 to 70 million by telling these stories and educating his customers. And the important thing is, really, what does he do? He sells wine. It's not a wine shop. It's not what he's selling. The content is not about what he's selling, though. It's what he stands for. So it's not about what he's selling, wine. It's about what he stands for, which is everyone deserves to understand the wine experience. That is his content marketing mission. Think about it from another perspective. Think about Southwest Airlines. It's not, what do they sell? They sell plane rides. Woohoo! Plane rides from Southwest. But what do they really stand for? It's that everyone deserves to understand the flying experience. So what do you sell and what do you stand for? Stop talking about what you sell and start talking about what you stand for. And that'll make a huge difference in your marketing program. Another way opportunity is to create your own category. So I'll get to that and what that means in a second, but I want you to think about content from the timeout experience perspective. Apex from the Medill School of Journalism says, really good content is that lean-back content that gives people what they really didn't know they wanted. Right? Isn't that something? That's content. That's educational. That's what we're really striving for. Of course, we know about all the SEO content where we're matching keywords and we're targeting those. Of course, we're doing a lot of that stuff. But what about the content to take our customers to the next level? That's what we want to focus on. We've tried to do that from the beginning with this crazy term called content marketing. We were the first ones talking about it. Started talking about it in 2001 and really went full force into it in 2007. Type in content marketing, you'll find us. There's first one, like what is content marketing? That's us. So we're talking about it. That was our category. But at the time in 2007, content marketing was not the dominant phrase. It was custom publishing. And the blue line you see going down, that's custom publishing. This is Google Insights, by the way. Great tool. And the red line going up was content marketing. But we started looking and said, hey, there's an opportunity here to really take advantage of this change because we talked to enough people and they started to resonate with the term content marketing. And as you see, like we're into the 2011 right now, content marketing is pretty much taken over. Custom publishing is the de facto term for what we're talking about today. Another good example, GoToMeeting does workshifting.com. And workshifting.com is basically the idea of my office is anywhere. But they created this site, and there's some really amazing content for people that are on the go, that have their office in Panera and Starbucks and at home or wherever it is. And they're really catering that content to those people really good. And if you type in work shifting, which work shifting wasn't even created. No, what's work shifting? I don't even know what it is. But if you look at work shifting on Google right now, everything that comes up is all about GoToMeeting. Number 5, reason why your content probably stinks and how to fix it. Lack of a content calendar. Go through some of these quickly, but it's important to get a plan. What's your plan? What is your publishing plan? This publishing plan, 173421 plan, is from my good friend Russell Sparkman at Langley Center for New Media. I'll be presenting in Seattle this week with him and his crew. 1 daily, a Twitter or a blog, right? That's your daily content. 7 weekly e-newsletter, 30 monthly webinar, 4 quarterly. You have an ebook or a custom magazine. 2 biannually. You have maybe a user event. 1 annually, maybe a large research project. I'm just throwing out ideas here, but whatever it is, get it into a spreadsheet, get it somebody that owns it, and have them run it. But most of the companies I talk to, they don't have a good publishing plan like they usually have a marketing plan. Like they know when they're running in certain magazines, and they know what events they're doing trade shows at, but for some reason they don't have a publishing calendar, which amazes me. To give you an example, this is from January issue Chief Content Officer magazine, and we did a podcast with marketing prof Ann Hanley. It is to the right if you can see the slide. And we started with a podcast. We actually did 2 podcasts. But to think about this effectively is you just don't do content for content's sake. It's not one piece of content. So we have to plan for this too. So we do a podcast, And we know we're on the podcast, we're going to do a print article. We also have a digital article version of that. We have a tweet schedule talking about both the interview and the output. We have Facebook posts about that. We have blog posts on the interview and on the content. We have guest posts on other sites talking about the interview. We have a white paper that goes in depth up to what Ann is talking about on the content in the magazine, and we have a case study about the whole process. So what I'm trying to tell you is that one piece of content has to be about 10 today, and most of the time we just don't plan for it. Number 6, not leveraging your own employees. Employees are the most valuable marketing assets we have, and we usually don't leverage them enough. And I'm going to tell you a little case study about OpenView Venture Partners, which is an expansion stage VC firm located in Boston, same location as Awareness. But what they did was they created an employee-based blog, and here's all their featured bloggers, and oh, by the way, these are their employees as well. And what they've done is, over a very short period of time, then they created OpenView Labs, which ends up being the ultimate resource for expansion stage startups, looking for information on how to develop their business. And some really, really amazing stuff on, podcasts and videos and blogs and just some amazing stuff. And most of this information is coming directly from employees. And what have they done? They've averaged 24 posts per week coming from employees. That's 90% participation. If you talk to Scott Maxwell, the CEO, it's been amazing for lifting the employees up and making them feel more part of the business. Over 30,000 visits in 6 months. E-newsletter subscribers, a good, healthy open rate of 25%. Over 700 blogs, articles, videos, and podcasts published. And I asked Scott, and I said, tell me, what's the big result? What's really happened? He said, Joe, the biggest thing that's happened is I don't have to explain to people what we do anymore, because they go to the site and they see it. They know what we stand for. We know what we do. We know that we're out to help them. And it's really helped their overall strategy by getting new companies involved in their business. Really, really good stuff. I got 5 minutes. I'm going to go through these last 4 pretty quickly. Number 7, that people will magically engage in your content, right? I mean, think about it, another Lego reference. Think about if you were, Jesus of Nazareth, right? And you were supposed to spread your gospel all over the place, but you ended up staying in your house with Mary, and you're saying, well, nobody's following me. Why isn't anybody following me? And, Mary's getting upset because you're like, well, go out and do something. But that's how a lot of marketers act. They create content and they feel that that content should just be, SEO indexed and people are going to naturally find it. You've got to get involved and spread it around and talk about it like Jesus did and went and talked to the tax collector. You got to do that kind of stuff. So find out where your customers are hanging out. Do you have your target blog list? Target the top 10 to 15 or more blogs or websites in your niche. Read them. Somebody's got to be responsible for reading them, getting active, and start commenting on those key ones. Now, where else your customers are at online? Are you the LinkedIn Yahoo Answers expert? If somebody asks a question on those areas, are you answering that? That's really important content there. Kodak has a chief listening officer that is sort of the air traffic control person for their business so they can handle this type of stuff. So my question is, do you have somebody that has that responsibility to figure out first who's talking about you, where you need to be, and finding out the people in your organization that need to be responsible for that? In order to do this and spread your message, you have to think about offline or off-site content. And that's part of our strategy as well. So we started with ContentMarketingInstitute.com, which is a blog a day, which is multiple resources online. We got a pro membership, but it's not enough. So we had to say, we've got to create the magazine. Chief Content Officer, print and digital magazine. We've got to have an in-person event, Content Marketing World. So whatever your mix is, you've got to look at that offline content and spreading to your online content. So you have to think about more than just web only. Number 8, your content has no owner. Look at Kodak again. They got Jenny Cisney, chief blogger. She's sort of the chief content officer for Kodak because they have 3 blogs. They have 1,000 words plugged in, grow your business. They have multiple content initiatives going on. They got 17 Twitter accounts. They got a Kodak community. And if you don't have somebody that's sort of the chief storyteller in your business, you're going to be in trouble. So figure out who is that owner. It might not be the CMO. It might not be the marketer. You might have to get somebody in who's a journalist that can do that understands the power of storytelling. Number 9 is a big one. is you don't have content experience. So if you look at, again, at what marketers are dealing with, the biggest content marketing challenge they have, 36% are saying their biggest challenge is producing engaging content. That's the hardest thing, producing engaging content, right? And producing enough content is a close second. So what can you do, right? Hire a freelancer journalist. Go out and find a journalist to help you. Hire a content agency. And if you can't do either of those two things, search out your internal content producers. Find the ones that are blogging, that do a good job, that understand social media, and find out if those people can help you get a publishing process together, because it is not easy. Because we've been doing the same type of marketing for 50 years, and all of a sudden people said, oh, we got to be publishers. Number 10, you don't have internal support. You need internal support to make this happen. There's a 300% less chance of success if you do not have C-level support for content marketing. And this is also from the research we did. And when we compared the most effective content marketers to the least effective content marketers, of the percentage who cite lack of executive buy-in, least percentage was 23%, most effective was 7%. That's a huge difference. So if you were less effective, you thought you were less effective at content marketing, you probably had a bigger opportunity for not having C-level support. So very, very important. And again, think about what your measurement is. If you want to show ROI, you've got to show ROI. In some cases, I call it return on objective, right? We set our objective. What's our return on that specific objective? What is it? Direct sales? Is it the quality of the lead scoring in some way? Sales lead quantity? The SEO ranking? Figure out what those are, because your C-level is going to understand best by numbers, and probably numbers that you already use in your business now. How do you measure your other programs? Try to take that and put it to your content, because if you don't, they're going to say, what are we getting out of it? Are we just feeling good about it? Measure something. Even Delta in their social media activities, they measure the number of interactions they have on Twitter, and that's the measurement that they use to get up to the C-level and show that. So that was a lot. So the path to publisher. What are the 10 things you need to do, right? Specific goals, right? Get super niche. Focus on your customer pain points. Your content has to be the best. There's no excuse anymore. You can do it. There's no barriers to entry. Get your schedule, right? Get your employees involved. You build online relationships with great offline content to spread your message. Who's your content owner? You insource or outsource your content, and you have C-level support for your content marketing. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. True to my word, Will, we got 10 minutes left for a Q&A. You can reach me at joe@junt42.com anytime with any questions you may have, at Junt2Joe on Twitter, and any of the other brands that you see below, as well as the book. So, Will, I'm going to hand it off back to you.
Well, thanks a lot, Joe. That was great. And you did finish at exactly 10 minutes of 3 Eastern Time, which is fantastic, in addition, of course, to all the great content. Now I'm going to go through just a few quick items here. I'm going to make myself the presenter again. And then we have a whole bunch of questions that have come in that we're going to just try and get to a few.
Fantastic. I know we probably won't get to all of them, but
yeah, now I will say I know a lot of people didn't have any technical issues, but a few people reported there were some issues with the slides. We will be posting a recording of this webinar for those of you, who had any issues. You'll be able to get to it through the learning section of our website. If you enjoyed today's session, we would definitely like for you to join one of our social presences so you can see the other kind of webinars that we're going to be doing in the next couple months. We have a Facebook group, the Social Media Marketing Mavens group, which is it's our group, but there's a lot of great discussions that go on there, and you can get a lot of good information there. You can also follow us on Twitter at Awareness Inc. And if you go to awarenessnetworks.com, we have a lot of interesting blog content that we put up there, not necessarily recipes, although I guess we could do that. But a lot of interesting content for you guys to look at. Before we get to the questions, I want to just let everyone know about our next webinar, which is going to be next Thursday. It'll be another set of really interesting, another presentation about a really interesting book, The Power of Real-Time Social Media Marketing, with Beverly Macy and Terry Thompson. That'll be at 2 p.m. next Thursday, and if you go online now, I believe you can download a few free chapters from those books. So you can get there at tinyurl.com/SMMpower. That is Social Media Marketing Power. So with that, let's get to your questions. I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. We're going to go through really the top questions here that we are, just a few random questions that we picked out. And Joe had told me that if you tweeted with the Pound Awareness Inc. tag during this webinar, he'll follow up with you if you've addressed the tweet to him. He'll be happy to follow up with you afterwards. So, Joe, I just want to start off with a question that we have here. So Sal and I read your book, and one thing you mentioned in the book and something that you talked about during this presentation is about outsourcing the work of creating content. So, we here at Awareness, for example, we create a bunch of our own content, and then sometimes we work with partners to create the content.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is, how in an organization do you determine when you should outsource, or whether or not you have the resources internally to do that, and how do you determine what the right mix is for your own organization?
That's a good question. First of all, you got to realize that most organizations outsource at least some part of the content marketing process. So if you're thinking that most do it internally, that's not true. They most of the time they do outsource it. So from a sourcing standpoint, you look at it like everything else. Do we have the time, and do we have the expertise, and do we have the resources? And if you have the resources internally, why would you outsource it, and the quality and the expertise? What we find mostly is that the time and the expertise is lacking in corporations. I mean, you've got marketing departments and communications departments that are getting cut down, they're trimmed, so we're doing a lot more outsourcing these days, and you probably don't have the expertise. So if you're going to let's say you're going to do an ebook on this, lean manufacturing, and you want the absolute best content, why wouldn't you reach out to one of the leading journalists in the industry to help you write that so that it is the best content in the industry? So I would say that we got to look from that standpoint as to, do you have the time and do you have the resources? If not, look to outsource them. It's okay.
Yeah, I would say from our perspective, the other thing that we think about is sometimes when we work with external partners to create content, they're bringing an audience to us. They already have their own audience. And so there's a sort of not just the content we're getting, but also, we're getting the audience that's kind of built into the content.
Well, yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, I used to do outsourcing for customers all over the place and help them with their content initiatives. Most of the companies that are out there, they don't have good publishing processes. They don't even know, like, let's say you wanted to do a custom magazine or a webinar series. A lot of people don't know how to do those things, especially the publishing processes involved in a magazine or a digital magazine. And actually, if you look at it pound for pound, it might be more effective, more cost-effective to outsource.
Yeah, I can believe that. Okay, so let's take a few questions that came in from Twitter. Sal, would you like to read some of these questions for us?
Sure. Hi, Joe. This is Sal.
Hey, Sal.
Here at Awareness. So I'm monitoring the Twitter stream, and I have a couple questions here. One is just basically with everything you said is, content marketing is about telling a story. So one really simple question is, how do you become a better storyteller?
The best way to do it hopefully you can actually tell the story. You have a good understanding for what goes into a good story. The second thing is talk to your customers. I mean, I think the biggest lack of not spending the right time in the right places is we don't talk to our customers enough and understand what their pain points are. Because if we understand their pain points, especially in B2B, then we can come up with solutions and some really compelling information to solve those pain points, and that is a compelling story to your customers. If we don't understand what their pain points are, we can never create, it could be an entertaining story, it's not going to be relevant, and it's not going to work.
Interesting. I mean, that sort of ties into the next question that I have here. So I'll just go ahead and repeat it. What is the best way to listen so that you know what the right content to create is?
So, we kind of went through the whole thing about listening to your customers. First of all, you have to figure out what your objective is. And then I always like to say, okay, what is your objective? And then, what is the type of content that's going to best solve that objective? And then what is the type of media that we can use, whether it's, online, offline, combination of both, that's going to solve that? It all comes back to, unfortunately, I hate this, it's so simple, but Most of the companies that we deal with and I consult with, they don't have any kind of formal listening processes set up. So how do you set up those listening processes so that you're not only listening online, but you're talking to your customers, you're talking to your sales reps, you're talking to your employees, and you're constantly learning what those challenges are so that you can come back through and say, hey, these are the types of topics that would be really compelling stories to solve this content marketing objective. So I don't know, I mean, are you guys seeing that, Sal?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and, it's funny that you should mention that, but, not to plug us too much, but sort of, the Awareness Social Marketing Hub, does allow us to really listen into what our clients have to say about our product, what their pain points are, what they like, and sort of, it helps drive our story. So, a little bit of a shameless plug, but, I mean, it is true. I have a couple questions here. They're sort of, business process related, and they're sort of on both sides of the spectrum. So I'll just start with one. If your business covers a broad spectrum of ideas, should you try for a niche in each area or pick the strongest niche to be in?
Well, I think it depends on what you're trying to do, but let me say this. So let's say that you have 4 or 5 distinct audience areas. Focus on the audience, right? If the audience is the most important, and that's how you're going to figure out what your niche is. So if the audience is the same, it makes it a lot easier for you to figure out what channels that you want to focus on and what type of content. But let's say that you focus on one is, let's say, government, and the other one is B2B. 2 very different messages that you're going to need to focus on. You need 2 content initiatives for that. You probably have very little overlap because your audience, one is in government, one is in B2B. If you start talking about B2B stuff in government, they're going to shut you out, and vice versa, going the other way. So focus on who your distinct audiences are, and for each of those audiences, you're going to need to have a separate content strategy.
Great, awesome. We're running short on time. I'm just trying to squeeze in a couple more questions if we can stay on for a little bit past 3 Eastern. One is, how can you convince employees to get more involved in creating content if they're not open to it?
Well, you're going to get, on average, we see about 10 to 15% of the people that will actually raise their hand and say, I want to do it, because they probably already have blogs, they're already active in social media, they're already creating content, and they want to do that, and they get something out of it. And it's not money, right? They want to be part of something different. They want to do that. So that's fantastic. Find out who those people are that are raising their hand and focus on those. Don't sell the other 90, 85%. First, focus on those. And if you look at the OpenView case study, that's exactly what they did. They figured, okay, who are our current storytellers? And let's get them involved. Let's get an owner and get them trained and up and running. And then once those people start doing that, then they start talking to other people. So that's one thing, and then other employees, you get those people involved slowly. Some people will never come around, but you can get more than that. You got to make sure you have a good, clear social media policy. Look at IBM's, it's fantastic. They have thousands and thousands of blogs all over the place from individuals that are sharing their content. So make sure you kind of set the terms of engagement, and so people know exactly what they're doing. And then run contests. I know it's so simple, but contests are really good. OpenView ran a contest. And they said, how much traffic could we get in a certain week? And it was kind of hokey, and they didn't know what they were going to get. But, man, they got a lot of activity, and people that were never blogging before started to get involved because they were giving away some cool prizes. And lo and behold, once they did that, those people got more involved after that point. So just focus on the champions that you have and then slowly get the other ones integrated.
So you mean into, internal contests?
Internal contests. Like I think the way they did it was the most traffic to their own blogs within the company.
Oh, awesome. Great info. One last question. I have one here, and I have a feeling there's not going to be, one standard answer, but I'll go ahead and ask this and get your opinion on it. As a small company with few resources, what essentials do we need to be successful as possible with content marketing?
Okay. Besides just simplify it, make it as simple as possible. Figure out, number one, what are your goals and what are you trying to accomplish? Be specific with that. 2, focus on who your audience is. Do you have a buyer persona set up? Do you understand who that buyer is that you're targeting? 3, what are their pain points? So remember, I'm talking about 3 things, and I haven't even talked about content. You have so many companies that shoot from the hip. Oh, we should do a blog post on this. Oh, we should do that. But they don't have any data or goals to understand why they're doing it. So keep it simple. Goals, figure out who your buyer is, what those pain points are, and then once you have that, then you can figure out what type of content and what type of channels. If you're a small business, I probably wouldn't go over 3 major tactics. Focus on things that you can do well. So let's say 3. Let's say you do an email newsletter, you do a daily blog post, and maybe you do quarterly mini magazine or something like that. And then in between you're tweeting and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Keep it simple. Focus on doing the best you can with the resources that you have. You can't do everything, but in everything that you do, make sure it's the best it can possibly be. So that's why from a small company, you can't do 20 different tactics. You probably have to say, well, what are the 3 or 4 that we can really do well?
Well, thanks, Joe. This is Will again. We found here that there's a lot of different kinds of activities that we can do, and there's certain things that, our audience really responds to, that they really like, and there's other things that don't get quite as much attention. So it's a little bit of a trial and error process here at least. But then, then we can focus on what we see really getting a good response. So with that, we're pretty much out of time. I want to thank Joe for doing this presentation with us today, and I want to thank everybody for attending. I know that there's a lot of questions that we didn't get to. As I mentioned before, we're going to, between Joe and us, we're going to try and respond to those questions, the ones that were on Twitter. Some came over the chat or the Q&A, and we'll try and follow up with you guys directly. We will be posting a recording, as I mentioned, on the learning section, and we'll send a follow-up email to the attendees with that information. So do not fret. We will send that to you, and you'll be able to see this with the slides all and the sound if you had any issues. Joe, do you have anything else for the audience before we wrap up?
No, hey, I just want to thank everybody. Everybody has my contact information. Happy to help out. I'll get to you as soon as I can if you have any specific questions, and thanks for taking the time.
Great. Well, thank you, Joe. Thanks, Connie, for helping us. Thanks, Sal, for the questions. And thank you, everybody, for your great questions. And we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at our demo and next Thursday at our upcoming webinar. So we'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you. Bye, guys.